Stand. We're going to start with the invocation led by Zana.
Bow your heads with me, please. Father, thank you so much for this day that you've given us, Father. Thank you for each one of these folks that are here tonight. Father, I just ask that you would just be with them and bless them and take them home safely. Father, we just ask that you give us guidance on this meeting that we're about to have tonight. Father, just help us as we make decisions for the community of Muleshoe, that we do those things in your honor and your glory. Father, we just ask that you be with our teachers and our students and our administration as they prepare to get back to school this month. Father, we just lift them up to you. We ask for their safety and for guidance in that area. Father, we thank you for all that you are and all that you do. These things I ask in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to establish that we have a quorum and call our meeting to order. We're going to have the pledge to the flag of the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Everybody can be seated. Gail, we appreciate you being here tonight, as always, as well as the staff and all the guests that we do have tonight. It's at this time in our meeting that we will receive public comment. And so if anybody has anything that they would like to have an opportunity to visit about, now would be the time to do so, unless it's an item on our agenda.
My name is Troy Johnston, and I have some things that has been bothering me for a very long time. I'm sorry if I get choked up, because it's been eating at me for the longest. And Jackson already knows, I've already talked to him once about it, and he told me to come to the meeting to voice my opinion of what's going on. And I brought my daughter that has PTSD now, and she's on anxiety medicine, and she's going through mental health because of it. Lately we've been targeted, I feel like, about my house, my animals, my yard, everything. I was forced to get rid of 3 of my vehicles because it's considered, it's supposedly a junk vehicle sitting in my property, on my property. And I got another citation about some stuff in my yard, which I've already got rid of most of it, and I've already taken care of it, but it was because of rain. I don't have no truck, no trailer to get rid of the stuff, but I feel like I'm being targeted all the time about it. And then when I mention about that I'm trying to do the best I can, I work at the car wash, and I try to do the stuff at my house, and I'm trying to take care of my wife and daughter that are both disabled. They have a lot of health issues, and I've been trying to fight that and fight working at the car wash and trying to do the yard at the same time. But when I mention about the meth houses that are here in town, there's nothing being done about it. I've been seeing officers arrest people coming out of there, but not getting to the root of the problem. And it's been eating at me, and something needs to be done about it. And one of the houses is right down my street on East 5th. And his name, he goes by Chief. And his house is known for drug activity, more than any house I've known in this town. And there's 2 other houses that have a lot of weed, and I know Texas is against it, but it's still being allowed. And something needs to be done about it. And I don't know how else to go about it besides coming here. And I've gotten 10 citations within 3 years. And there's so many houses that I've seen that have cars. One has a white Silverado sitting on center blocks. And it's been sitting like that for over 6-8 months, and there's nothing being done about that. There's a motorhome that's been sitting with junk around it. There's a couple of trailers that have all kinds of stuff around it. That's not still being allowed. There's a black F-150 on across the track side that's been sitting with no citation, but yet every month or so I'm getting targeted with my vehicles, my yard. And I've just had enough of it. I don't know what else to do.
Well, Troy, we appreciate you coming tonight and giving us information. You've helped me at the car wash many times, and appreciate you. You always take good care of us.
I try.
But with that, I think one thing that, code enforcement tries to do is try to keep things clean. And most of the time, we're not trying to issue citations, we're just trying to get compliance. And so they have also...
1 of 10.
They have also approached me pretty regularly about my property as well. And so you're not the only one. For some reason, they like to pick on me as well. But I'm with you. You can drive up and down any of these streets and see junk vehicles that haven't moved, that hasn't been taken care of. Maybe that's something we need to look into to see what direction we're
Not
looking.
pick and choose either.
Because I can think of 5 in my head just from driving from my house to my office, that vehicles that haven't been moved, that are up on blocks, they really need to be addressed, and I don't think they have been. So we do appreciate your time in coming tonight, and we'll definitely take all that into consideration.
Thank you. And there's one other car too. It's an Impala. It's a black Impala sitting underneath a carport that has been sitting like that for many years. And I don't see nothing.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm being targeted all the time. My wife and daughter cannot even go outside without Gonzalo or somebody else passing by and just watching. Or if we leave, we're afraid that when we come back, there's a note on the door. And it's happened 3 times. And my wife and daughter don't want to leave the house because they're afraid coming home and seeing a citation on the door. And you can see my daughter's already crying. And I'm trying not to cry.
For sure. No, we will.
It's hitting us hard. And then we're just to the point of wanting to leave Muleshoe. But I love it here. I love some people here. I love how I help people and they look out for me. I love taking care of people at the car wash. Now the business is a lot better now since I've been back over there because I was out for 6 months. Now that I'm back, now all of the clientele is coming back and it's making it better for me. And my only escape route to do things is work and work on lawn equipment. I can't even work on lawn equipment in my yard because I'm being afraid that I'm going to get a citation for working on lawn equipment. That's how I make money to supply for my family. And I'm at wit's end.
No, like I said, we appreciate you being here tonight. We'll look into to everything that you had to say.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And you guys are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you would like to. We'll probably have a meeting that'll last a little longer than normal tonight, but you're welcome to leave as well, whatever you guys are comfortable with. And you're welcome to leave in the middle of the meeting at any time. So.
Oh, could I address the council?
Yes, ma'am.
Do I need to walk?
You can stay there, come up, whatever you're comfortable with.
So what I came tonight for was to encourage the council to possibly consider organizing an effort or campaign towards beautifying, cleaning up our town. I think we have an incredible place to live here. I'll never leave here. I don't want to leave here. But I think we have some places around town that we've let go. And I think we have, you referred to one, we've got a couple of codes that would help enforce that. But I also think just campaigning for the community to come together in an effort out of respect and love for the place that we live to clean it up and make it a better place for ourselves and for the people that visit here. I know our new business, 90% of our business is coming over from Clovis, Plainview. We've even got people coming from Nazareth. And they don't just come here to play, then they go buy groceries, they go eat. And so, but just for ourselves, those of us that have lived here and made this our home, I just think there's some things that we could do as a community effort to make this look better. I know there's houses, Ramona and I have talked about it, that have been just completely torn down, burned down, and the rubbish is still sitting there. And these ordinances that we do have address that. We don't need anything new to clean it up. And I know there's people that don't have the financial, means of doing that. They don't have the physical ability to do it. But maybe as a city effort, we joined with churches, whatever, to do something to clean up some of these areas that are not beneficial to the kids, walking around, and the neighbors that are trying to keep their places clean. And I would be willing to sit on a committee, anything that y'all decided you might be interested in doing, I'd be interested in being a part of it.
Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for not only offering some suggestions, but offering to be part of the solution as well.
That means quite a bit because, I mean, as well as anybody in this room, I've been sitting up here for several years. And it's just been within the last probably 5 or 6 years. I don't know exactly when. A lot of the councils that I've been a part of for over the years just really never addressed anything like that. But all of a sudden with new people coming in and better ideas and wanting to do things to beautify our town and keep up appearances, things have gotten a lot better. That doesn't mean that they're fixed. And we appreciate, like Colt said, you coming in and actually volunteering to take part in something like that. There's only so many things we can do and so many of us to go around. And if we could get a organized participation out of that somehow, I think it'd be a great deal. I'll visit with you about it later.
Is there any other public comment?
Yeah, I'm here again this time of year. Y'all expect to see me about the time you're voting on taxes. I did decide to go ahead and bring up, I was at the county commissioners meeting this morning. And one thing they pointed out was that the figures they got from the appraisal district were incorrect. They had computer errors in them that would have raised taxes at the voter approval rate 12%. And so they're working on fixing that and trying to work on fixing it themselves before Thursday, their next meeting, to be able to go ahead and continue with the budget process. And before they even had all this discussion, I talked to them about, I would urge all of you to vote for the no new revenue rate. That's where we've seen Lubbock County do it, although they were forced to, because two county commissioners didn't show up to the meeting on purpose to force them to adopt the no new revenue rate rather than going to a much higher rate that's closer to or right at the voter approval rate. So I would urge y'all to consider that no new revenue rate when you're down to the nut cutting on the actual tax figures. But also I didn't know if you were having the same problems with the figures you're getting from the appraisal district.
Well, I would say the President District did see a rise in ARB protests this year, which I don't know if you've been in and talked to them at all, but probably the reason you see the rise in it is the state keeps forcing us to increase values.
I understand that.
Which is really an incredibly difficult thing for me to understand, because there's really no correlation between the amount of money that you can sell your property for and the amount that it should be taxed for. And so I think it really complicates it whenever you have the state trying to work an angle and then you just have us trying to take care of local business. And I would say that the city, just like any other business out there, faces some of these inflation problems. So I've done quite a bit of research, and I think this is something to commend the people before all of us that operated the city here in this room. But most cities of our size will operate with at least 20 to 25 more employees than we operate this city at. So I feel like we do so pretty effectively as far as the operating costs from what it costs to hire an employee today and the benefits that we give to these employees. But they also provide a service for each of us in the community. And I'm not saying that we can't get better at some of the services and do some things, but when we face these increases of 12 to 15, sometimes 20% in the cost of doing business, from the big line item is always health insurance, right? So that's just an easy one to pull out. But I mean, even when we have to buy vehicles or vehicle maintenance and repairs, the hardest part for us is we can't continue to operate at the same amount of money that's coming in. But different than most tax entities, we do have an enterprise unit, and that's selling water. And so many times when we work that direction, we try to consider that we're actually selling a product and maybe look at increasing the water rates rather than the tax rate. But it's also difficult for us to go to the no new revenue rate, because then how much money does that cut out of our budget from the year before?
That's wrong.
Maybe I said that incorrectly. I would have to look at it once we have it written down. But if we operated at the same amount of revenue that we had each year, but our costs go up, how do we continue to operate?
The revenue will go up. It's just based on tax rates from last year that were collected. On the average across all taxpayers, taxes won't go up. They will, however, be there on new items, new businesses, new construction. All of that will add to the revenue coming in to the county, to the city. And so therefore the no new revenue rate, it states no new revenue, but it means no new taxes on existing businesses and entities from last year. And so it doesn't mean you won't have a budget increase.
Sure.
And my biggest, what I'm bringing up, we kind of got off on appraisal and all of that. What I'm bringing up is, yeah, I know appraisal's been going up every year. 5 to 11% on my properties. We absorb that and then turn around and the city and the county, and I think the school district this year will probably do it, but they're meeting right now. I couldn't go to that one. They all also collect more revenue because they raised the rate even with a bigger pot of money they're collecting from.
Yeah.
And so therefore we get a double hit. The state, they're right now with the appraisal, unless the legislature does something about that, we can't do anything about the appraisals.
It's just crazy to me that people claim that they can be conservative at the state level and they want to have our hands in our local business. Because they don't like when the federal government does that to them at the state level. And I think part of the best way that our country was set up in having local elected officials is like, it's so much easier for you as a citizen to get rid of any of the 5 of us that's sitting here than it is to get rid of your state representative or your state senator. You know, but they want to have the local control saying that they're protecting everybody, just like they increased the homestead. You know, it's, oh, we're saving all this tax money. My tax bill hasn't really went down.
I did.
You know, but I would also state that it's within everybody's right to go protest at that ARB meeting. This is the first year that I went and protested from a business standpoint. I protested 5 different properties. And one of them we decided not to discuss. With 4 out of the 5, I got my values lowered. Not to what I wanted, but, you know, it helped.
I go every year, especially on our place out in the country that's just dilapidated.
For sure.
They keep raising the values on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that's our right as citizens, and we need to continue to take advantage of that, because that's the only way I think we can prove a point for the state to back off.
Well, you always too got to remember that all these entities we were just talking about are branches of state government. That the city charter, the county charter, the schools are all part of state government. So they're not going to get out of it, as you say.
Sure, sure. You know, my concern there is what they're doing is they're withholding school funding, forcing the local appraisal district to increase the value. And that's something that they don't openly say. But they withhold school funding from Muleshoe ISD every year because they say our values are not high enough. And I sit on the appraisal board too, and so I'm pretty aware of that issue. But I would encourage you to come to our appraisal board meeting sometimes. And I bet it's going to be a hot topic tomorrow at noon, 12:30 at the appraisal district if you want to join us there. The meeting starts about 12:30.
Okay.
And so it's just an interesting approach, and where I think if we could single-handedly just determine our rate without them messing with values, I think you would see a lot less of the fluctuation. We would probably be like, all right, this is where we need to be. Let us adjust the rates and just stay out of it. To me, that's the easiest and simplest way. But I also understand some of the states deal of the big cities of, you know, Dallas County and Harris County and Bexar County and all that they probably have some people in there that really tries to drive those rates up, and it creates a problem. But what's good for those large counties doesn't fit Bailey County either. And I do appreciate you being here tonight. I always appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right. Seeing as we have none, we're going to move on to our agenda items. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the council meeting held July the 13th, 2026.
Make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is to discuss, consider, and take possible action regarding the request from L and L Ministries Inc. to grant an exception and grandfather in the placement of a storage container for human habitation within the City of Muleshoe city limits in relation to City Ordinance number O-558-0526, including discussion from the representative of L and L Ministries. Ramon, I'll let you start with that.
Mayor, I want to echo your words. Walter Leckey from L and L Ministries has requested the opportunity to address council on that issue. They are requesting an exemption or grandfathering for the placement of storage containers in the city. So, Mr. Lack is here, so.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Council members, I think I've met everybody except for Mr. Myers. Mr. Myers, Walter Lackey. Nice to meet you, sir. I'm sure my father and my granddad and his brothers did business with your dad and your grandfather, no doubt. And I think I hung out on a Saturday in high school every now and then, pushing stuff down the pins. But yeah, I came last month and introduced myself. So I'm not here on behalf of myself. My name is Walter Lackey. I am an attorney, but I'm not here representing L and L Ministries Inc. as an attorney. When we have legal issues, we always seek outside counsel. And so I stepped away from the practice of law in 2019, and then have even stepped further back from my relationship with the state bar, although I am still licensed. And so I think this could boil down to, and obviously Mayor has the authority to cut me off, but I really want to be concise here. I don't know if council, have you all read the email that I sent? I know it was fairly long, had some attachments. You can't get lost in replies and emails because I've looked at those for a living before, and even when I look at them, it gets confusing from this date to a reply and so forth. But I think we're talking about who, where, and what. Who, where, and what? Who's the who? It's L and L Ministries Inc. It's not me. It's a nonprofit. It's a 501c3. We're recognized by the federal government and, of course, the state of Texas. And I think you all, I gave you our website, which kind of says what we do. What do? We do 4 major things. We visit jails. 3 of our team is certified with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to go to prisons. We haven't started that yet, but we are soon. But we go to jails. We go to the Smith County Jail. There's about 950 inmates there. And then last year we started coming to the Bailey County Jail. My understanding was there was a shortage, maybe since pre-COVID, on some ministry services there. So we go to jails. We go to nursing homes. That's just our heart. And yeah, they're both kind of a tough gig, but the rewards are really high. We enjoy it. Number 3, we feed the poor and we go to homeless camps. And so I don't like to talk about that too much because that's extra special to us. We've got homeless camps in Tyler, Texas, and we just go get in the dirt with them and go easy on the religion and heavy on the kindness and give them a cup of coffee. My daughter, Madison Lackey, she's here with me. She's headed that ministry before. She's our secretary and treasurer currently. And then last, something that hasn't come up yet, I am a certified law enforcement chaplain. And so I was trained with the state crisis team. My last deployment with that team was to Kerrville. Quite a heavy deal there. I stepped away from that organization. Now I serve as a chaplain under our own entity with the Smith County Sheriff's Department. So I ride out a couple times a month with the men and help them deal with their stress and on their marriage. So that's what we do. We're doing 3 out of that 4 here since last year. We started here, and I don't really want to talk about the spiritual side of what we do, although I can, because what we do is for a reason. And that reason has a name. His name is Jesus. We serve Jesus. And it's expensive to serve him. And I don't want to compare how we do it to other people, because that's the problem. You know, in Texas, I realize all that, but I'm going to set that aside. But we came here last June, I think. We started a little quiet little prayer meeting, renting the little meeting, the little room out at the Coliseum. And we started that because we know that everything runs on prayer. Not my kind of prayer, it just runs on prayer. We've got to pray. We've got to pray. The country's in trouble, Texas is in trouble. We have cultural issues, so we have to pray. So we did that, then we started at the nursing home. We're going there once a month. We've been through maybe 2 administrators there and a couple activities directors, but we do well with those folks, I think. And then we've worked our way in. It took a few months to get into the jail and get comfortable, and you just earn people's trust. The jail's a little bit more strict, depending on which one you're in. You got to be safe and all that. So that's what we've been doing here. So that's the who. The where is 1701 West Avenue G. And I tell you what, Mayor, if you'd allow it, I have just a little 3-page staple thing we can put in front of y'all, if that's okay with you. So if you just give them one. So we do have a map there, and some of you all may have looked at the map, and we probably need to glance at it. It's probably to the 2nd stapled page there, because that's the where. The who, where, what. The who is L and L Ministries. The where is 1701 West Avenue G. It's on that little map there. And the what, of course, is our cabin. I included the picture there. That's what L and L Ministries has purchased, is that container cabin. It's the picture there. It came from an outfit called Excalibur Container in Grand, Texas. Used to be a mom and pop place. Now they're big. Actually, while they were building our cabin, my salesperson called me and said, "Mr. Lackey, can we pull y'all's off the line? I just sold $9.5 million worth of these things, probably to an oil field company." I said, "Sure, you can pull it off a minute." So that's the who, where, what, and here's the rub, and to be frank, I'd rather not be here tonight, but here we are. So we'll work through it. Here's the rub I have, council. So I came to Muleshoe. Of course, I was born here, and I graduated from high school here in 1990. My dad farmed in Pleasant Valley. He retired at Toad. My mom was a school teacher here and so forth. And I put some of that in the email just to give you all some context. But as best as I know how, mayor and council, I came in November and started communicating with the city via Mr. Sanchez to just try to honor the authority, because I've been around and I'm old enough to know that's appreciated. When you hit town, you just don't start. And I don't consider myself an interloper or a carpetbagger anyway. I'm kind of from here, and I have connections with a lot of people in the room, including Mr. Sanchez. I know I went through 2 days with Miguel, one of his siblings. And so, I know folks, but so I come here and I start communicating with Mr. Sanchez, and at least I can document it as early as November 24th of last year. And so I just said, hey, this is what we want to do. And there was, resistance from the start, which to me is okay. But the rub I had was we could just never get a definitive yes or no. It just drug on and on. And what I was communicated with and what I understand, and please let me say at this point, I've been around long enough. Nobody has a steel trap for a mine. There may be minor details where Mr. Sanchez remembers something that was said that I don't, and the other way around. So I get that. But, I was communicated with, it wasn't a yes or no, and it seemed like there was a little bit of angst from the city, but at least a willingness to work with us, at least. And I was looking back through the emails today, just kind of working along, look at this property or do this. But unfortunately, we got a few roadblocks thrown, and I counted 5 just in going over the notes today. The first concern was that, this cabin container wasn't wired properly. And so I called Excalibur and said, hey, I'm sure y'all are doing the electrical wiring properly. These things aren't cheap, and they're bought by guys like me and rich guys with gentleman farms and hunting cabins and all that stuff. And they, like I said, they paused their production to sell $9.5 million worth. So I contacted them and said, hey, as far as I know, you guys are wiring these safe. And they came back with, some language about the International Building Code, which I responded to the city with that. The next roadblock that was put up was just trying to get an approval of a lot that, L and L Ministries and the City of Muleshoe could just agree on. We hadn't bought a lot yet, and I wanted to work with the city and tried to work with Mr. Sanchez, and we looked all over town. It ended up being just harder than I thought it would be, just to find a lot. And I drove around town quite a bit, saw some of the things that were, the concern of the gentleman here tonight. Just, some things need to be cleaned up. So we tried to work, and Mr. Sanchez and I talked about 2 or 3 different lots. And at one point, we had searched, we drove around, and Mr. Sanchez suggested even those lots over across from UDA that La Jolla Farms own. I think they own a lot in this town, which is fine. There's no complaint there. And so there's some lots that look like they were built for an RV right across, I guess that would be the east side of UDA, maybe there. So my understanding from Mr. Sanchez was that gentleman might be amenable to selling us those lots, us being L and L Ministries. And so I wrote the guy a letter. I think I included a copy, and it was crickets, didn't get a response, and I wasn't offended or anything. There wasn't even a for sale sign on that lot. And there's not a lot of for sale signs in town. And so we're looking at roadblocks, codes, approved lot. I was told by the city that this particular cabin doesn't have a back door. And to me, it's too small to need a back door. But I said, okay, we're in production anyway. So I called Excalibur, talked to our salesperson. I said, how much will that door cost? She said $2,100. I said, put it in, because I want things to move along here. And when I say $2,100, it's not coming out of my pocket. I have to call the board and say, can I get us on for another $2,100? Put that back door in. It's not necessary in my opinion, but it is what it is. So I did that. That was our response to that roadblock, as I'm calling it. The next roadblock was, I was informed by Mr. Sanchez that the Bailey County Appraisal District might consider this cabin to be an RV, which didn't make sense to me, but it's okay. I'm learning. So I go to the Bailey County Appraisal District, talk to the appropriate individual, show them a drawing of this container cabin, and I said, just blunt, is this an RV? And she asked me one or two simple questions. I answered them. She said, no, it's a dwelling. It's not an RV. So that was my response to the roadblock. And the kicker is the problem, and at least in my view, while we're here tonight, and the one that got me, the roadblock was delayed. And so, I start talking to the city in November 24, 25. So that's our bookend. And then on June 22nd of this year, I'm left with a hard copy. We came by, we had been ministering at the jail. We just bought lots the Friday before, we being L and L Ministries. So we stopped by the city hall, and Mr. Sanchez had left a copy of the new city ordinance that was passed May 16th. So I'm trying to communicate. Here's my rub. I feel like I got played, because I started communicating with the city out of respect in November of 25. Here it is, June 22nd of 26. I dropped by and get a hard copy of a new city ordinance that happens to specifically prohibit the very cabin I've been talking about with the City of Muleshoe for 4 or 5 months. And I don't think that's right. I don't think it's fair play. And, I took a look at some of what this council goes by. And let's see here. I think in June of 23, you guys passed your own city council standards of conduct. The first one is honor. And that just doesn't seem honorable to me. It doesn't. Was there miscommunication with me and Mr. Sanchez? Maybe. I've documented it. We were talking for 4 months. I couldn't get a yes or no. But what I got is 4 roadblocks, which I addressed as best I could, and there's no city ordinance in place. And so y'all's codes say there's a principle of honor. It just doesn't seem like, it doesn't smell like, and it doesn't taste like that to me. Principle number 8 that you guys, and some of you council members respectfully were on the council at that time. Principle number 8 is transparency, being transparent, And I was communicating that length of time with the city, because I wasn't going to just buy that thing and come plop it down right quick. Get my foot in the door before it closes, because that's generally speaking, that's just not the way I do business. We need a yes or no. If it's a no, So that's the rub. That's really the rub here for me, and it irritated me further when the email came from the city that didn't even mention my request for the grandfather, and it was just like denied based on the city ordinance. Well, I get that, and I've read the city ordinance, and frankly, it is what it is. You all decided that, passed that. I'm sure went through the public comment period, and I'm assuming it's legal as is. I don't know. Nobody's litigated it or anything. But the problem is, for one cabin that was professionally built, is properly wired, that has a neutral color, it's caught in the middle here. It's caught in the middle. And I feel like I'm just coming to ask y'all to do the right thing. Denise is the right thing to do. And I get it, because I've read the ordinance, and for your reasons, not mine, and everybody has different opinions, you all have decided that this is the standards in this town. And obviously I have to respect that. And that ordinance, until it's pulled down for some reason, that could be constitutional or otherwise. And I'm sure the council's educated. If you get the temperature of what's going down in Austin right now, let's take, for example, on September 1st of this year, there's going to be a state law in play that forbids cities from wholesale prohibiting mobile homes. So that starts September 1. And so I didn't take the time to look at every new law that's coming down the pike, because I know just with the whole idea of the economy, people shrinking, even the idea of minimalism, people going smaller, even the first trillionaire we have, which is Elon Musk, what does he live in sometimes? A fold-up little cabin that his company builds. You know, it's a $50,000 deal. You know, it's already hit the news. He sleeps in that thing. Granted, he's a trillionaire, he can sleep where he wants to. But, you know, this idea of minimalism, mobile homes, you know, it's kind of taken on. And you guys, I know, are going to have to deal with tiny houses, everything else, and already are, I know that. So, I mean, I'll take all questions, but I just feel like I'm asking y'all to do the right thing just because we were caught in the middle, and at minimum, we weren't communicated with right. At most, I was just played, and I don't appreciate it. And, you know, I've been around long enough. I stopped by that Tuesday after the Monday that the city left me a hard copy, and Mr. Sanchez and I had a spirited conversation. It didn't get out of control. I was just like, hey, I feel like you played me. And, you know, I've been a lawyer to know long enough. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. When you lose, you go across the desk and shake the guy's hand and say, well played. You know, you beat me today in court. And I wasn't being sarcastic. I told Mr. Sanchez, well played, because I feel like I got played. Because all that time I was delayed, and we mentioned there is at least one legal issue. There's probably two for y'all. There's probably at least one. It's called intentional interference with a contract. And I told him, you know, this is not good. I changed the contract based on our conversations, you know, like adding the door in. I wouldn't have spent the $2,100 if we wouldn't have had that conversation. The contract was altered. And so, did I threaten to sue anybody? No, I spent 10 years in litigation. You stay out of court and you work things out, you do the right thing, and you move on. Otherwise, people waste a lot of money. The insurance companies get involved, the lawyers get involved, and a lot of times it's a waste of time if people just get together and do the right thing. So, two more points, and I think I'm going to wrap it up, and I really do want to entertain questions, all questions, hard ones, tough ones, and I'll do my best to answer, and I'll do my best to say, I don't know. If you ask me a question, I don't know. When I was practicing law, I learned that. If you don't know the answer, just say, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. And I know we're sitting with a bunch of educated people in here who may have, 8 different opinions on what's going on, and there's some specifics in the neighborhood. But, you know, I looked at the code again today, the new ordinance, and it says, whereas the city council has determined the following ordinance is necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. I just don't see an issue with grandfathering this in with this particular lot that would affect the public health, the safety, or the welfare of the citizens here. And I'm just being direct and blunt. I don't see that reasonably here, how grandfathering this in. And if you all would please just turn to your map here, I want to show you this 17, we're at 1701 West Avenue G that we landed at L and L Ministries, because I think it's important where this exception may or may not be granted, what you all decide. Because we're talking about 1701 West Avenue G. What's unique to that? Well, first of all, there's a dead end there. And you all know this, I'm sure. And the rest of 1701 West Avenue G is grass. So this cabin, my understanding is the city would require it to face the street. In other words, I can't face this cabin towards 17th because it's not platted towards 17th. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to spend the money to get it replatted. I don't care. I'm fine with the cabin facing the grass. It's a little awkward, but I'm fine. I'm not trying to buck the system here and just buck everything. But we're talking about the cabin that would face the grass. It doesn't even face the street. What does that cause? Well, it caused me to have to put the mailbox on 17th. And I've talked to a couple of people about that. I talked to the postmaster, and I said, is that even allowable? He said, oh yeah. He said, we'll just talk to Laura, the local carrier, and you put that mailbox there on 17 so she can come around, make a UE, dump the mail in and leave. I said, sure, whatever you want to do. So it's awkward to put the mailbox, you know, on 17th, although we're on G. And we plan on putting a metal fence there on the line between 114 and 113. And I guess at this point, probably do nothing with 113, although I wouldn't swear that we're never going to do nothing with it, you know? So we're talking about this specific location, this specific exception based on the communications, and I think not professional handling of the matter from the city. It's facing the grass, and I know Mr. Myers lives close here, and he's seen this stuff. So we've got the grass. Next to that, you all know there's a large barn there. Excuse me. There's chicken coops. I heard the chickens this morning because I went by to work on the post just a little bit more. I went ahead and put the post in because I don't think I'm breaking any rules by that. And I know there's an issue. I know it's a small town, and I know there's an issue with the dirt and the vehicles there that is on Avenue F there. So I think that's important, council members, because of the exception, and I think where it's located, because I don't see this being a blight to the community. If I face it toward the grass, from the park, you'll see the end of this. You'll just see the end of it, and it's brown. I don't see that as an eyesore, reasonably. Obviously, I'm arguing my position, but I don't even see that reasonably being like an eyesore or a blight. And I know you guys don't want these in your town. I get it, the city ordinance is in place, but I'm asking for an exception. So I'm gonna ask y'all for three things tonight. I'm asking you all to grandfather and make one exception for one cabin and move on. And I get it, the ordinance is in place, so be it. I'm asking y'all to just make sure there's no more delays for this matter. Why do I have to ask that? Because the email that Mr. Sanchez sent, where he didn't mention my request for grandfathering, but just mentioned, hey, you're denied based on the ordinance. I get that, I'm asking for a grandfathering. What he did was he attached some deed restrictions from like 1957. I looked at deed restrictions before we started. I shopped around different land. Those deed restrictions don't apply. What I've read on them, they're from 57. They talk about 1,000 square foot limitation. And what's distasteful to me is they talk about servants' quarters. I think we're past that. I think we're past that in 2026. So my assertion is that those deed restrictions that were attached to that, although they weren't mentioned in the email, and I think they weren't mentioned for a reason. I don't know that reason. So that's why my second of three requests is just to make sure there's no more roadblocks. And my third request is that we be waived the permit fees for this because of just the expense that I've been out. I don't think that's much to ask based on what I've represented to you all on the extra expense. And I definitely get the award for person who traveled with others tonight. I mean, it's 540 miles. This is what I do for a living. I left the law for a reason. I serve people. I don't ask for money. Our money comes from the right sources at the right time. I don't take up an offering at the jail. That would be illegal. I don't take up an offering when I go to the nursing home. You know, we're there to serve. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying what we do. What we do. That's what we do. That's what we do. When I go out with the Smith County Sheriff's Department, I don't wink at the deputy who's just making a living and say, hey, can you give me $20 today? It's just volunteer. That's what we do. And that's what a nonprofit does. People support the cause, and then you do what your purpose of the nonprofit is. So that's what we're asking for. We're asking for a grandfather exception. We're asking for no more roadblocks and delays, and be advised. I realize it's in a flood zone. It's kind of a problematic property anyway. I don't know who would want it. It's in a flood zone. So we've already retained a reputable survey company. We've got the pre-construction certificate done. We've got our flood certificate done, and we're ready to move on. You know, I'm just gonna have to have you all to move. And frankly, Mr. Sanchez looked at me in our last meeting and said, yeah, I'll grandfather you, but not on that property. And I'm just like, I don't understand that. I don't understand that statement. And frankly, I don't think it's up to one man or one woman to decide where a nonprofit buys land. And I know there's some frustration, but I didn't know about the city ordinance when we closed on the land on June 19th. I didn't know about the city ordinance. Why did I not know about it? Because I was never told about it. Because it was never posted on the website. and because I wasn't emailed a copy. All I know is I've been having conversations with the City of Muleshoe for 4 or 5 months. And I don't think this is honorable, what was done. I don't think it's transparent. And I don't think it meets the purpose of the ordinance to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of its citizens on denying my request, my 3 requests tonight. And so that's my request. And I respect the fact, especially probably Mr. Myers, but I'm guessing, I think he lives the closest, that there's been some angst there. And I
think he probably lived close.
Oh, my mayor may live close. But anyway, it's a small town. I've heard the rumors, and I know about the dirt and the construction equipment there with that gentleman who now owns those lots there and whatever. That's not my business. It doesn't really look like a residential neighborhood there because of that, and because of the barn and the chickens. And what I'm saying, council members, is I don't think this cabin is going to degrade that neighborhood one bit. I think it'll sit endwise, facing G. I think we can put up a metal fence. I don't think it'll be a blight. As I said in my email, we chose a color that was easy on the eyes. Y'all put that in your ordinance, rightfully so. You don't want some interesting person coming in with a bright orange or bright yellow cabin for whatever reason. So I think that's what I wanted to say, and I think I can tell by looking at your faces that you all paid attention. I really appreciate that. Just hearing my point of view, my side. I guarantee there's 2 sides of it, but I want to say thank y'all for just listening and probably taking up more of your personal time by reading that long email and trying to make sense of this. But that's my take on it, Mayor, council members, and I really would. I would be happy to do the best I can do as far as I'm not running the meeting, and Mr. Sanchez or however the mayor wants to proceed. But I'll entertain questions and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And if you have questions, if you don't think something I said is true, hey, that doesn't add up. What about this? And you read that in the email. Did you stretch the truth on that? I'm entertaining hard questions. Yes, sir.
What are you planning on putting in there?
Me. We've been coming monthly since last year, and then we've been staying in a hotel. I do have family members here, but we've been staying in a hotel. So I usually stay 4 nights, the ministry. That's $400 or $500 a month. I run a 501c3. Mr. Myers, this cabin will be, for all purposes' sake, what's known as a parsonage. Yes, sir. And obviously, I'm a simple dude, or I wouldn't live in a space that small. But you'd be surprised about the inside, frankly. It's got shiplap, really built out nice, but it will be me, sir. And I've already mowed that place twice, paid for it from the nonprofit funds, and I'll be there. And usually where I live, I keep up because that's the way I was raised.
Before we get into too much questions or back and forth, one thing that I do want to clarify from the honor comment and what was the other thing?
It was Principle 8, transparency.
And transparency.
Yes, sir.
From the council's perspective, and I'm going to speak for all of us on this,
Yes, sir.
and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but for our honor and transparency, when we passed the ordinance in May, I don't believe any of us were aware of really any potential storage container houses.
I appreciate that.
And so I just
Thank
want
you.
that clarified from all 5 of us sitting up here, that, none of us wanted to pass that to get at you or create an issue for you.
I appreciate that a lot, Mayor. I didn't know, and I try not to be accusatory or suspicious. Of course, we all can. That's human nature. Who's against me or one of y'all? And I'm just like, I just need to come and have a conversation. So I really appreciate that, Mayor, because I didn't know that factually. I didn't know what was going on.
So I think from this point right here, what needs to take place is the council needs to ask Mr. Lackey questions. I think you need to develop an opinion while we're having this discussion. And then we need to have a discussion amongst ourselves. I mean, of course, with everybody in here. On what direction that whoever would like to start. with any questions you have for Mr. Lackey, I think you're welcome to do so, and maybe that will, somebody asks a question about answer another question that you might have, so.
Is that open to everybody? On the question part?
On the question, yeah, I'll open it to everybody.
So, I might have misunderstood you, but how often do you expect it to be inhabited? How often are you planning on staying here?
It's a really good question, because right now we're coming once a month. However, that's going to continue, but I will be here probably straight, I suspect between 9 and 18 months. I've got some business here to do. And the number one thing I have to do is pray over this town. I will pray. And I fast too, a lot. And I left the practice of law for a true calling. And it cost me. And I'm not doing no harm. I pray and I fast. And so I will be here between 9 and 18 months, probably solid. And I'm not here to fight the system or fight you all or fight Mr. Sanchez. To the best of my ability, I'm here to serve. But it's a good question. Right now, once a month. However, once L&L owns the cabin, which we do, anybody could stay there, but it's not going to be any riffraff. If they stay there, they'll be under L&L's authority, under the board's authority, and I will have a say-so in it. And we don't put up with much in our little organization because the ministry's a bloody business, and there's a lot of people doing squirrely things behind the pulpit. And I've met people from all professions who don't have integrity. So, yeah, once a month for 4 nights. We come on a Thursday. We usually leave on a Monday. But soon I will be here between 9 and 18 months, and then I'll have business in other parts of the state.
Well, in regards to what you're asking for, we're probably going to disagree on this.
Yes, sir.
But in my opinion, we cannot grandfather because the way I understand grandfathering to mean is if you have something established and at a later date, you set a rule to we're not going to do that anymore, you grandfather that in because it's already established.
Yes, sir.
You don't have anything established.
Yes, sir.
So we cannot grandfather it in order, if we decide to allow you to do this, it would be an exemption.
Okay.
And if we go to exemption, I'm afraid that we're opening ourselves up from now on. Because if you exempt one, why are you going to say no to the next?
Yes, sir.
So that makes our ordinance worthless.
Yes, sir.
And I don't think we need to go that route. The other thing, I know there's been some, let's just call it back and forth.
Yes, sir.
Like you described it earlier with you and Mr. Sanchez. I wasn't, or none of us had anything to do with that.
Yes, sir.
But I have to wonder, you never had the okay to put one of those anywhere. Why did you buy land and plan on doing it without having the okay that we can do this?
That's a very good question.
And that part of it, I really just can't wrap my head around.
Yes,
It
sir.
doesn't make sense.
Okay, very good questions, and I'll address them in order that you spoke them. So the first question, or the issue as I understood it, was we really can't grandfather because I wasn't there to be grandfathered. My response to that is I wasn't there to be grandfathered because I couldn't get a straight answer on a yes or no, or I would have been there to be grandfathered. I was ignorant, and I was kept in the dark while the city ordinance was being passed. Regards to an exception or an exemption, pardon the verbiage, should have used an exemption instead of an exception on my verbiage and my request. Obviously, I request an exemption if that's what we need. Will this open the door for future exemptions? Certainly could, because when you deal with adults who act like kids, well, she got one, why can't I have a blue shirt? I want a blue shirt, and I get that. But my response to that, Mr. Parker, is that no one in the future will ever request an exemption or an exception or whatever based on the reason I'm requesting L&L. Because this is a very specific set of circumstances where I started communicating with the city on November 24th of last year. That communication ceased when I got knowledge of this ordinance on June the 22nd there. And the reason, your last question was, why'd you go ahead and buy that if you didn't have approval? And the answer's simple, because I didn't have disapproval. Sir, I had no knowledge of the city ordinance. And we had been going since November. And I'm on the hook. When I say I mean L and L Ministries, we're on the hook for storage fees in Graham, Texas. And thankfully they waived those, because that thing's sitting down there ready. And I feel embarrassed, and I said there's been some delays. And so the reason I went ahead is because I didn't know about the ordinance. As stated earlier, it wasn't posted online. It wasn't emailed to me. I got a hard copy on the desk out here.
Well, the
Yes,
other
sir.
thing I'm wondering too, and I don't know because I didn't hear the conversation. I'm not going to pretend to.
Yes, sir.
I can hear your side of it, I can hear his side
Absolutely.
of it, and I can weigh it however I want to.
Absolutely.
But if you started out in November of last year pursuing this,
Yes, sir.
why did it take until July before I ever even met you the first time? I'm pretty sure that one of the two of you is, and maybe both of you are going to say, there's been some heated exchange between this because I can't get an answer and I can't give you an answer right now.
Yeah.
Why did it take all the way from November to May before you came to this council
Yeah.
and said, I would like to do this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think there's a couple of answers, sir. I think the main answer is because this thing didn't come to a head until June, when I got the copy of that thing, which was a surprise to me, to say the least. And so I came as quickly as I could. Last month, we run down just to introduce ourselves, although it's just public comment. I thought, I gotta get up in front of these people right now and just say, hey, here's I am. You may like me, you may not like me. But yeah, I came as quick as I could. It's a very good question about the delay. That's a long time. And there's a couple of reasons. First one being, I just couldn't find a lot in here that we liked, that L and L liked. And we're just shopping. There's not a lot of choices. I thought, man, I'm from here. I thought, man, there's some choices. There's not a lot of choices, sir. And I see you shaking. There's not a lot of choices. We kept on driving around town. We're coming every month. We're driving. I'm like, where do you want it? And I'm praying about it. I'm like, where's our spot? And I felt from the get-go, frankly, it was the ones we got, but I thought we'll never get those. And then when I heard about the flood zone, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, it's more problems for us. And so part of it was the shopping process. Part of it was we had some delay, and I'll just be frank. We had some delay in some donations that were expected sooner than later. That caused delay with Excalibur. I don't like to share that business, but I will. It's pertinent to this conversation. And the third reason we had delay, as I mentioned earlier, our salesperson called me, sweetheart lady at Excalibur, and she just told me, can we pull y'all's off the line? I said, why? She said, she said, we just did $9.5 million worth. I was like, what are you talking about? It's like 60 or 70 of these things. I smiled. I said, well, I hope you sold them because of commissions. She said, I didn't. Somebody else sold them. But she said, I'd like to pull yours off if you'll let it sit for a month or so. And I just said, well, we're not finding a lot anyway, and I can't get a straight answer, so I allowed them to pull it off the line. And they appreciated it, and it was give and take. You know, I don't think I left them with a bad taste in their mouth. They waived the storage fees and just let it sit. And I just kept emailing them, sorry, we're having some delays with some donations. I apologize about the lot situation. And then finally, I didn't even tell them about this May 11th, and I may have said May 16th a while ago. I didn't tell them about the May 11th ordinance because it was still sitting down there. I had to get it off their property, and it's off their property right now. And they were very gracious to me, and I told them, we're going to buy another cabin, put it in another one. So, Mr. Parker, I've tried to answer those questions that you concern, but I think the biggest one is, why'd you go ahead and do it anyway? Because I knew of no rule that said I couldn't, and I didn't put a cabin down. What I did was just buy 2 lots. So what I went ahead and did was at least buy the land, because it came open. I made a very reasonable offer, and the gentleman accepted it on behalf of L and L Ministries. So I didn't just come in and try to plop it without approval. It's not like that. But we did go ahead and buy the land, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I didn't know about the ordinance.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Questions?
Well, I think we should start by maybe having a conversation amongst us and decide what route that we want to take there between the five of us. And then once we decide what we want to do, then maybe we'll confer with the attorney and see the route, how we get to the conclusion of what we want. You know, something I think about, and we've heard information tonight in public comment. It's weird how that happens on the same night that we were having this conversation. In a positive to Mr. Lackey, I think that lot, and I believe the lot to the south, maybe is owned by Fred Locker. Does that sound correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay. Those two lots, or Fred Locker's lot, seems to always get taken care of and be mowed. The rest of those lots down there don't seem to be getting taken care of very often. So I appreciate that we actually are able to have a clean property. That's a place that I drive by every day. I also think that there was a barn built on the next lot. I feel like maybe there was some conversation sometime last year about the weeds. You guys can remind me of that conversation, because they got so out of hand over there. And I think the property owner maybe sprayed them, but I don't think the ordinance refers to dead weeds or alive weeds. I think it refers to the length of them. Is that correct?
12 inches, you're right.
And so I think those weeds at that property have looked horrendous for at least 8, 9, 10 months probably, if not more. And I think the property next to that's become a construction holding lot, I guess you could say. I don't know what happened between Friday and today, but before that, there was weeds that was as high as the pickup that was sitting on the property. Like I said in public comment earlier, and I was trying to tell Troy, like, he's not the only one that, I mean, code enforcement will get to address things, because it happens to me pretty often. Anytime my lot on Main Street gets a little over ankle high, which typically we're watching it, I've typically already called somebody to address it. Gonzalo has contacted me multiple times to make sure it's addressed. And I make sure it's addressed. But in the same sense, where I live, there's a vacant lot to the south of me that's owned by somebody from, I don't believe, even in this state. And I've lived at that house for 7 or 8 years now. One time I think that anything's been done about that, which creates a hazard for my family and kids, and between snakes and hazard for mosquitoes. But either myself or me paying somebody or my neighbor down the corner is the only one that takes care of that. So I could see a positive in this lot of maybe allow this to be on there, but at least it's going to get maintained, because it probably hadn't been maintained in I don't know how many years. But that's where my mind starts.
I really don't think we can compare apples and oranges. If we have problems with lots not being maintained or junk vehicles or whatever the case may be, I think that needs to be addressed because we already have one that's in place for that. I don't think we can use that as an excuse for this. I don't feel comfortable doing that. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, everybody's entitled to an opinion. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm just stating my opinion. We're starting to see more people, I think, concerned, maybe a little bit at a time, with how our city looks, and I appreciate that. I take pride in the way my house looks. Do I live in the biggest, nice, fanciest house in town? No, I do not. I take pride in it. I try to keep it looking decent. And I think most people here feel the same way. I just wish everybody in town did. But it makes it really hard on enforcement to try to contact or find somebody or get somebody to answer a phone or anything else that doesn't even live in this community, whether they live 50 miles away or 500 miles away. It doesn't make any difference. If you can't get a hold of them, it's kind of hard to enforce sometimes. I understand that. But there's a lot of things that can be addressed and maybe needs to be addressed a little more vigorously. But that needs to be dealt with under the city ordinance that we have to handle that. I don't think that really pertains to the city ordinance we passed not allowing these. I've looked at the deed restrictions on that Richland Hills edition, and it specifically says, no, you cannot do this. Is it still worth the paper it's written on? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. It's not my place to decide that. But until I'm told differently, I think I would uphold what the deed restriction says. So I don't think it meets the criteria for the deed restriction. I'm sorry for what happened. I'm sure it could probably be handled differently from both sides. But I can't, in good conscience, go against something I just voted for 3 months ago.
Well, and I have to agree, I have a hard time making an exemption for something that I voted for. And the next person that comes in here is gonna ask me for that same exemption, maybe a little different circumstance. But how do I honor that if I can't stand on what I've already voted on?
I guess for clarification, I wasn't trying to use those properties of being a problem as an excuse for this. My thought is I have a lot of driving by now that is finally being maintained. I'm trying to maybe find a little bit of positive in it.
I understand. I do. But I just wanted to clarify the way I look at it. I mean, I'm not trying to say anything bad about what you're talking about. I'm not.
Sure.
That's not my reason.
For other clarification, Brian, tell me if this is wrong, but my understanding is deed restrictions are not enforced by
the city.
The city or any government entity. That is a separate civil matter that takes place.
Yeah, between those that are subject to the deed restrictions. So that shouldn't factor into the city's consideration.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. It's
Their deed restrictions, the city has nothing to do with the deed restrictions. So that would be private cause of action from those that are subject to those deed restrictions would have to do something about enforcing those.
Does that mean neighbors?
Yeah, whoever lives
in that addition would have to.
So the guy parking the
Whoever's-
equipment and the guy that built the barn?
Yeah, whoever is subject to them, they're the ones that have to enforce deed restrictions. So
Is there a certain time period that has to be?
it just depends on the deed restrictions. So, yeah.
I'm kind of split in two here. I also agree with what Zane and Mr. Parker said about how can I go against something I voted for. At the same time, I feel like, they're coming from the right place about what they're wanting to do and how they stand and what they're trying to accomplish. I would probably say I could vote for the exemption somewhere else.
Do you have any thoughts you want to share, Crystal?
I took really good notes, and I appreciate you sharing your side of the story. I did read everything. I think in this case, there's also like a third side to the story where all of us have our version of it as well. I would like for us to come together and talk about this in group to see where we want to move forward with some of the stuff. So, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Would there be any way to have an executive session and a discussion for this legally?
Not tonight, because you don't have it.
Sure, but in the future we could?
Yeah, there's plenty of legal issues that we could,
Under like real estate or?
more consultation with the attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think it's really hard because I know everybody on this board wants to do the right thing and, be honorable and transparent. So there's just, I know Colt mentioned that we did not know about it, but I don't know if this was a conversation with Ramon or if he mentioned it and that's something that I took down on notes, but I know there's several people within the community that are interested in tiny homes
Yes,
or the
ma'am.
train carts popping up, and it's even all over Facebook, who's buying houses, I see it being shared, so this, I do not feel was targeted towards you in any way. We didn't know it was you. Ramon didn't share a specific person or case on who was wanting a tiny home or wanting a train car. So whenever it was brought to us, I think we all agreed that we did not want the train carts coming, so when we passed that ordinance. But I am well aware that there are people that are possibly actively working on creating the train carts or the active homes or trying to get them to code or not doing them the right way either.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sure we could talk to like Works to confirm that, but I know people in the community, because I see them shared, like I said, on Facebook, and I in the moment before reading all of this, I was like, oh, nice, we passed an ordinance, so even though they're sharing it on Facebook and saying what they're gonna do with theirs, we know that it's not gonna happen because we passed the ordinance. I also think if we did grandfather make an exception, we run into that issue of like, okay, hey, we were posting this on Facebook before, does that mean we all get an exemption as well?
Sure.
I think if we go that deep, it's almost to the point where maybe we bring it back and not have the ordinance if we want to open it up that big to bringing the train cars in,
Sure.
to keep it fair for everyone, to do the right thing. But I love what you're bringing to Muleshoe. I love the value. I read the website. I think it's great, and I think Muleshoe needs it, and we need the prayer. And if we don't agree on something that is in favor for L and L Ministries, continue to pray for us in our community.
Sure.
Please.
Sure, we're playing for the state. And I'll just add this, because I had a fourth request I didn't ask, and I can tell you frankly, the city did not treat L and L Ministries fairly. That's why I'm here tonight. And my fourth request was, I'm really hopeful. I hope y'all rule in our favor unanimously. I hope y'all give it some thought. And of course, it's just more delay for us. It just seems like I never dreamed it would be like this. And there was just no way. That's just not me. I'm not gonna get it built and just plop it down. That's just not me. If I had hindsight to do that, I wouldn't do it, because it's just not my way. I'm gonna go to whoever's in charge and see if we can work it out. But we weren't treated fairly by the city.
Mayor, do you want to put this in next month's executive session and do that?
Yeah, that's kind of the consensus, I think, of the council. I would like to add, that, per your comment earlier, I think the reason that we didn't hear about it until we did is because we're fortunate to have the leadership that we have at the city. And we don't have to deal with day-to-day business because that's not what we're here for. I also would be curious to know that if we did know about all this, whenever we pass that ordinance, how would we have went about it? Would we all agree at that time? And that's why I think there is certain things in the world as exceptions or grandfathering or whatever you may call it, because sometimes things change. Honestly, Mr. Lackey, I was really opposed to this before I learned some more about it, and I'm like, well, not only does keeping the lot cleaned up and mowed look nice, but the more I learned about it, in my opinion, I don't think it's an eyesore. I don't think it devalues anything in that neighborhood. But I'm just one opinion of 5.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of things out there, though, that change over time, and people make exceptions, and it's okay. And you can make one exception and never make another. I really believe in that. And I mean, because if you go and you're led a certain way, you might decide to make an exception, and that's okay. And you may tell everybody else no. And I think that's okay, because
Yes, sir.
we live in an unfair world. I don't care how fair everybody tries to make it. We're never going to live in a fair world.
That's right.
And it's something that I try to teach my kids every day.
Yes, sir.
I know that you wanted to be able to move forward after tonight, but I don't think we're going to get to that resolution.
Understood.
And so I think we need to put this in an executive session for us to visit about it next month. And with that being said, for your request, I think, for me talking about it, I was in favor of moving forward with an exception or grandfathering or whatever legal terminology it takes to move that direction.
Yes, sir.
But the one thing that I would not agree with in your request tonight is to forgo any permit fees.
Yes, sir.
I think in that realm, those are fees set forth, and we need to adhere to them.
Understood, sir.
And I'm just giving you my opinion. It means nothing, but other than my opinion.
Yes, sir. Understood. And of course, we'll comply.
So-
Whatever's reasonable and fair. Yes, sir.
I appreciate you being here tonight. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you guys offered tonight. And we'll continue to work diligently and see if we can't create a resolution for both parties involved.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
It's,
Absent further questions, we're getting on the road, actually. So, but I'd be happy if there's any last question. And I don't know how, excuse me, I don't know how communication would flow, but if there's a legal way or a process way of, hey, we're in executive session, or between now and executive session, darn, I wished I would have asked Mr. Lackey one more question. If it's allowable, shoot me an email, because, man, I don't want to go another month. Pick up the phone and call me and say, hey, I wished I would have asked you that. If you weren't clear on that, I'll do my best, because I would obviously like for this to get decided.
you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it is perfectly legal for anybody on the council to communicate with Mr. Lackey at any time.
Yeah, that's fine. You just can't then go share it.
I'll be on the same phone call with Mr. Lackey.
Great. I will entertain a phone call, and I'll assume you're honorable, and we'll just say, hey, I got a question. You weren't clear, or now I'm thinking of something. I'll do my best to be straight with y'all. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure can.
From conception to the ordinance being passed, what kind of time frame did y'all deal with? Like, for instance, how long did the city know this was coming and not say anything?
Let me clarify the question. From the conception of
The ordinance?
L&L Pallet, or?
No, the ordinance.
The ordinance was presented to us at the 1st of May. We typically receive our agenda packets, I don't know, what is it, 7 days before?
The Tuesday before the Monday meeting.
The Tuesday before the Monday meeting. and that's when we have the opportunity to review information. Now, that would be in this case, you know, in specific cases, if I want something placed on the agenda, I may know about it further ahead of time.
Right.
Or if somebody on the council prefers something to be on the agenda, they might know about it ahead of time. But in this case, it was whenever the agenda packet was presented to us, probably about 6 days.
And it was voted for, so it was voted for 6 days later?
Yes. That's the legal requirements for us to post the agenda is,
3 full business days have to last between the meeting and the posting.
I can't imagine all the stuff that has to be adhered to. I'm just trying to find out when everybody knew what was coming versus the ministry being handed an ordinance.
for sure. And even at that point, during our main meeting, none of us were aware of L and L Ministries.
And again, that's meaningful to me. I appreciate that comment tonight. That's meaningful to me.
So,
Mayor, can you clarify that your wishes of the council are to table this?
yes, do we need to take action on that?
Just take no action.
Okay, so we'll take no action. It will request a executive session to discuss this in the September meeting. If we do have a meeting prior to that, that's a public hearing, we could go ahead and add it to that. Is that good with everybody?
Yes.
Would that be okay with you if we did that?
That would be awesome. I thought about it 3 minutes ago, but I don't know the procedure, and I don't want to ask for too much. I was really thinking 3 minutes. If y'all have a meeting earlier and it's legal, obviously, we would appreciate that. And I'm sure y'all would too, just we've got other fish to fry. Thank y'all again for your
Yeah.
time.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, hope y'all have a good week.
Y'all have a safe trip.
We will, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if you guys are good, we're going to go ahead and go to agenda item 3. Proposing the tax rate for fiscal year 26-27 budget. Ramon?
Mayor, as required by state law, the council will need a proposal tax rate at this meeting. The 2026 mill revenue for M&O is 0.539010. INS is 0.112970 with a combined 0.651980 per $100 valuation. That is a no new revenue. The voter approval rate is combined with 0.679495 per $100 valuation. My recommendation to council is to keep the current rate that we have. As Mr. Lewis alluded to earlier, we will verify numbers with the appraisal district, make sure that those are correct. The current rate is lower than the voter approval rate, slightly, so I am proposing to stay with the current rate.
This is an abnormal question, so you may not have the figure in front of you, but do you know what the difference would be if we did the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate of the amount of money that we would bring in?
And I don't, Mayor, I know that the current rate will will increase 0.426. That's 4% of what we currently levy. That will be the increase that the city will see. As you alluded to earlier, the inflation rate from 11 to 12, as you can see, this is 4% of the money we collect. It's a total about, and all these numbers are still preliminary numbers, or we're looking at maybe an increase of $56,000 as a total for the whole levy. That's the whole year.
So something that I want to make a comment on that creates some confusion, and I think it'd be a lot more transparent if it didn't have to be so complicated like this. If we could figure out, without the state changing these values, if we could just figure out, hey, this is what our budget is, and this is where we need to set our tax rate, I think you would see years that we might lower the tax rate. I think you might see years that we might have to increase the tax rate due to the increasing cost of business. And so I think it's the complication of it just makes it to where they come back in and do that work for us, and it's like, well, we're either going to be here or we're going to have a shortfall, one side or the other, or we can't operate, or we're going to have to cut somewhere. And like I said earlier, I do think that like we operate at an extremely high level of efficiency. I would encourage anybody to go and look at cities of this size and see how many employees they have that they operate with. And so I think we've been diligent over the years to end up in the situation that we're in and not be overstaffed to where like, yeah, we probably need to go cut some out of the budget. Maybe we need to cut some staffing positions, or maybe we're overspending and we need to get a handle on it. And I just don't think that we've been in that position before, definitely due to the staff's leadership and the prior leadership of this city before all of us. Does anybody have any question in regards to that tax rate?
Yeah, here's a proposed rate, it's not an adoption of it, so that could change.
Yeah, just remember that by proposing it, it can change. By when you adopt it, it can be less than the proposed rate. It cannot be more than the proposed rate.
I'll make a motion that we propose 1679495 per valuation.
I second.
Actually, it's 673093, the current rate.
So, let me just question this just because I have a little concern. If for some reason the numbers of the appraisal district was different, are we making a mistake by passing that tonight?
We're not passing it, we're just proposing it.
But proposing it?
Yes.
If those were wrong and the rate needed to be higher, which we all hope that's not the case.
I'm pretty confident that they're not.
Okay.
At that point, this rate will suffice for us. I think we're in a good place with it.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second to propose the current tax rate for the 26-27 budget of .673093 per $100 valuation.
Is that the wrong rate?
That's the correct one.
I thought that's what I said. My bad.
Yeah, I think you caught the one right above it.
I probably did.
But it's a .673093 per $100 valuation.
Correct. And that is the current rate right now.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is to set the date for the public hearing for the 2026-2027 tax rate and budget.
Everybody's required by state law, public hearing for the tax rate and the 2026-2027 budget is required to be held. Because of dates constraints, staff suggests August 24th. It's a Monday, August 24th at 5:30.
That works for me too.
We have to publicize it and with a certain date.
That works for me as well, and I would think we would add the other item on to a meeting at that. And all of us need to be here if that's going to be discussed, I assume. Okay, let's do that. If you'll just make sure on that Monday, please send a reminder text to everybody.
We will provide an agenda like we other time.
I just think like on that day, it's out of the norm of having a meeting. It's, that reminder of the day should keep everybody in line.
All right, we'll send you. Tamara will send you a reminder.
Yeah.
Take pretty good care of us anyway, so I'm not worried.
Our next item, number 5, is to consider ordinance O-561-0826, authorizing the operation of golf carts, utility vehicles, recreational off-highway vehicles, and other off-highway vehicles as permitted by state law on certain city streets. Ramon?
Mayor, this ordinance allows for golf carts and other off-road vehicles to be operated on any city street that is posted on the speed limit at 35, as dictated by state law. I think all of you have had an opportunity to look at the ordinance. I know some of you have some questions. I provided some additional information for y'all. So but that is what this ordinance does.
Is there any restrictions on what they need to have and not have? License plate, blinkers, headlights?
I mean, this version does not have any of that. You can, if that's something that you want, to have some local kind of specifications on that. And I think the previous path that we looked at kind of spells some of that out. This is just bare bones, basically saying these, again, under state law, without the city saying you can operate them, they can't operate them. So you're saying basically that they can, but you're not adding any of those specifics. But if you want to do that, we can add those details in.
So the way it works is you can't create a law that's less than the state law, but you can create a law that's more strenuous than the state law to fit the needs of the city.
Right.
In my beliefs in this situation, I think it needs to be as basic as possible. I think we live in a rural Texas town where people ought to be able to operate their golf carts or their utility vehicles or side-by-sides or anything like that, as long as they're doing so within the law, not being reckless, not driving at excess speeds. I don't see any reason to prohibit people from driving these vehicles.
But if we already have a state law that addresses this, then why do we need to pass an ordinance to change what the state law has already done?
Well, I don't understand that either. About a year and a half ago, me and Benny and Ramon had a conversation, and that's when Kenneth King was here with the kid that rides on the golf cart and asked us to please keep it where he could still ride. But everything that was brought to my attention from that direction was, do you know those side-by-sides run 50 and 60 miles an hour? I absolutely do. Are there speed limits on those streets? Well, yes. Then there's a law there that allows this. Or, hey, we've had some issues with underage drivers that aren't licensed. So does the state law require somebody be licensed to operate a motorized vehicle as such of any of these options? Yes. Okay. Well, then there's a law there to address it. But it seemed like, I don't know if you guys want to elaborate on, like July 4th, we wrote several citations for side-by-sides and golf carts. So I thought that I needed to bring this ordinance to council for everybody's opinion involved here, but that way that it's clear and concise of how we want it going moving forward. Because in that meeting when Kenneth King brought the kid and everything, I don't know if you guys remember that, we were all kind of the consensus of like, we want you to be able to ride on that golf cart, and be safe.
To the best of my recollection on that deal, that was a special needs child that a ride on the golf cart would calm down when they were twisting off, for lack of a better term. We never, like I said, to the best of my knowledge, we never passed an ordinance to allow that. We decided to gracefully look the other way on that particular instance. But it's my opinion, and Ramon, the notes you sent us in the email, did those come from stuff that Benny?
I did ask Chief Parker to give me information on state law, and that was provided to me, so that's what I provided to y'all.
Okay, so this come from Benny.
It comes from the state law.
Okay.
And to answer Mayor Ellis's, we wrote 2 citations 4th of July. One for, well, I call it a racer, with my age, dune buggy, okay? And we wrote one for a golf car going down 84. By state law, neither one of them had the right to be where they needed to be.
Yeah.
Okay, those were the ones that we did write 2 citations 4th of July. We did. You know, this is a topic every summer we get. Every summer we deal with golf carts, we deal with that. Back to that particular meeting where Kings came by, we did have the conversation, and I think consensus, most everybody was accepting golf carts, you know.
But we never actually passed an ordinance to do that.
No, sir. We follow state law, and those incidents that we have stopped multiple people on golf carts to check their licenses, especially when we can tell it's a minor driving it. You know, we do put them over and say, hey, you know, can you do this? Take it home. We have done multiple of those through the year.
I think people ought to operate within the law. You know, I think they ought to be safe. You know, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you there.
But state law just prohibits. So if we want to operate within the law, then, go ahead.
No, that's correct, yeah.
And so if we're going to operate within the, then state law prohibits side-by-sides. Said those racers, those are prohibited from being on city streets. If we want to follow the state law, you know?
Well, by looking at the information that you've sent us, and that's what I want to talk about. Golf carts, to address the first one. Operators may drive golf carts without a local ordinance only in 3 specific scenarios. Within a qualifying master plan community, we have none of those. My understanding that is like a gated community or a neighborhood that doesn't have normal, everyday, everybody traffic. On a public or private beach open to vehicular traffic, we have no beaches. Number 3 is on a public highway with a posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour or less during daytime hours, and no more than 2 to 5 miles from where the cart is usually parked, strictly for travel to or from a golf course. So it does not open up city streets for golf carts.
I think that's incorrect. Brian, you can enlighten us on that, because if it has lights and blinkers, I've researched it all myself, and you're allowed to operate it at night, and you're still allowed to operate it. Like, those 3 are not the only parameters that you're allowed to operate this on.
I'm just going by the information that was provided, so.
This is without an ordinance
Yeah.
or state law.
Exactly, the state law, and the general rule is these are not allowed on city streets. And so it requires a city ordinance authorizing their use on city streets, which is what's before you tonight to allow that.
If state law prohibits the use on the city streets, how can we pass an ordinance to allow them?
Well, because there's a section in the transportation code that provides that. It says cities can pass an ordinance that allows for these to be operated. 5518,
Sure.
like that, for another city, just.
I think there's more in depth to the law of what you're reading there than what you were given.
That's the general, if you were just operating under state law, you're spot on, there's very limited use, but if you pass a local ordinance, then you can, like this, very simple, just say, hey, you can do it under 35 and, 35 miles an hour or less. Again, some others will provide, they have to have all, different equipment and different things, because state law is silent on that. So, again, you're proposing just very bare bones that, hey, it's allowed as long as basically your main thing is 35 miles an hour or under, and then they gotta have a license and insurance when required. But no, your equipment provision there is where a lot of the local ordinances will typically provide for equipment specifications. So, and also another common one is the hours of operation. Right? Some of them will limit them to daytime hours, or if they're operating when it's not daytime, then they have to have additional, obviously, lights, reflectors, things like that.
So does that same provision include the off-road vehicles also?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not just for golf carts, but it's for...
Correct, yeah, it's all these categories that, and they're all defined in state law, off-highway vehicles, golf carts, utility vehicles.
If we look at a city ordinance to allow that, but this city ordinance does not address this, because every section says by state law. So state law does not allow you. So we have to pass a city ordinance allowing them to ourselves.
Yeah.
So the city ordinance is for us, does not do that.
No, the city ordinance is.
Well, because it talks about established by state law,
Well, I think it's still referred back to,
So
we're allowing it, but referring back to those state laws of it has to be on a street that's under 35 miles an hour. You have to have the state law require the slow pedestrian, that you have to have the certain things that the state law requires. I think in the reference to the ordinance, what that's going back to is stating that if you agree that you want to allow this, then they have to cooperate with those laws of the state. You can correct it.
Yeah, and you're just not adding any local.
There's no additional,
requirements like
yeah.
we normally see in city ordinances.
Like, one of them may be a horn, right? Like, I don't think horn's in the state law. But if you wanted to add a horn, then you could require that locally. And so, you started that part, and you started with golf carts, so you want to continue down from there?
Well, there's several things that I'm really concerned about. And I honestly think that most of it could be addressed by not allowing non-licensed drivers.
Mhm.
But also have safety concerns. I think a golf cart should absolutely have to have a slow-moving vehicle sign. I don't think state law makes you do that. I don't know if they do or not.
No, I think it does. I think state law requires the slow, the triangle.
Yeah, it's like the one.
Okay,
It's like the one requirement.
Yeah.
okay. As far as off-road vehicles, they're not slow-moving vehicles for the most part, so they should not have to have that same envelope. Here again, my opinion. But, and I don't know because I've never owned one and really paid much attention or asked any questions. Do most of those have brake lights?
I believe they do, but I can't speak to
That's
that.
one of the common kind of municipal requirements that I see.
But
I think the newer ones that are being made, from what I know, is most of them all do have brake lights.
I don't own one of these. I've never owned one of these. I own a golf cart. My golf cart has brake lights, has headlights. But
Well, that's one of the things, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think we should allow any of them after dark. I think it should be daylight hours only, just for a safety factor. They're smaller, they're harder to see, but even in daylight hours, I'm not saying that you would need to have in an ordinance to have headlights, but it would make them easier to see. I absolutely think they should have brake lights. If they don't have, they don't need to be out there, because it is too easy to run up on somebody and rear end them without a brake light. I think they absolutely should have that. One of the things that they go through in some of the descriptions and whatever on different vehicles is the rollover possibilities. And I'm pretty sure that I can't still do it now, but I would almost make you a bet that 30 years ago, I could probably walk up to the side of any of these things and turn it over by myself. I don't know that, but that's just a guess. They are top heavy. They're not made to run up and down streets. They're made to get out there in the mountains and sand hills and whatever to go hoop and holler and have a good time. That's what they were designed for. I just think there's some real safety concerns that they don't have the structural integrity of a vehicle. If it does turn over, for one thing, if you don't have seat belts in it, you're fixing to be thrown out of it. And two, once you're thrown out of it, you're either going to be rolled over on top of, the possibility of having it roll over you, turn over with you inside it, whatever the case may be. I just think safety concerns are something we really need to address in an ordinance if we're going to pass it to allow these. And to me, the no driving at night is a safety thing.
So I'm not trying to avoid any safety parts, but I think everything you just said, the same argument could be made for motorcycles being small, motorcycles not being built to the same integrity that a full-size vehicle is. Same thing with a small car.
They are, and that's the reason, motorcycles don't win wrecks.
Absolutely, that's why I don't drive them.
But they also have a registration, a title. They are a legal vehicle.
And
These are not.
But that's what we're making, is making them legal. But I would also say, as far as rolling vehicles over, you could almost make the same argument for Jeeps. And so, like, for safety, should we just ban all Jeeps in the city of Muleshoe and not allow that? To me, I think we're just here to take a common sense approach. It doesn't matter if you're driving a golf cart, a side-by-side, or a motorcycle. If you're operating it with responsibility and within the laws, then you're operating it a lot safer. And, something that I've thought about in thinking about this ordinance and just processing it, and I've got an answer in my own mind of my own opinion, but if there's a large event with a big crowd of people, whether it's police officers or security, if they use a vehicle to go through a big crowd of people, are they using a full-size SUV, or if they have the opportunity to use a golf cart or probably what you'd consider a UTV, which one do they typically use? Because they typically don't use vehicles and drive through crowds of people.
I think that's something that's permitted by state law on the law enforcement side of it.
For sure, but
They
why?
can use those.
That's my question, why?
Why? Because we're, can I speak?
And that,
That's because we go through rigorous training, driving, pursuit driving. We drive every day, and we don't have 16-year-old or 15, 13-year-olds driving.
But that doesn't answer the question.
Hang on. The reason we're exempt, like I said, is because we go to school for it, we do classes for it, learn how to drive them, learn how to pursue drive, in crowded areas.
But we're also building a difference, or Gary's building a difference, that there's a difference in a vehicle and these motorized vehicles.
There is.
And so you go to classes to be trained to drive a vehicle, not one of these. But
Point taken.
But what I'm asking is why, if you have a heavy crowded area, would you choose to drive a UTV or a golf cart to patrol that area and not a vehicle?
It's to be able to maneuver through the crowds. And at the end of the day, to be able to maneuver through the crowds, you're not gonna maneuver a big vehicle.
So,
That's the point you're making.
do you think it's safer because of those smaller vehicles you can see all the way around you? And you can monitor both sides? Do you think it's safer because you can operate them at slower speeds? Do you think it's safer because you can stop them faster than you can stop a vehicle?
Well, I think it's constraints, crowd constraints. Now we're taking it away from the street. Well, that's what we're discussing. Now we're taking the vehicle being used on the city street to being used with a mass, you know. Now we're talking two different deals here.
I'm just asking, is it safer to operate that in a mass crowd than it is to operate a full-size vehicle?
On a mass crowd, it is. On the street, it's not.
All right, so, I mean, that's my point. Like on July 4th, you know, I think if I wanted to drive my golf cart down the street to watch the fireworks, well, probably the reason that I chose to do so, which you gotta understand, my golf cart don't stay at my house. I don't operate golf carts on city streets. I've probably done so 5 times in my entire life.
You do realize if you're gonna drive down the street to watch the fireworks, that you're violating state law. Because state law states that they are to be driven daytime only.
No, it can be driven at night if it has the proper equipment.
No, they cannot. I'll have to find it. State law says daytime only.
Brian our attorney's right here, he can give us,
Oh, I don't have it memorized, so I'm not sure.
I got it right here. I think the question is, should we pass city ordinance allowing these vehicles on city streets? That is the main, whether we add snow vehicle, brakes, horns, lights, whatever, right?
hey, Moan,
What's up?
would you mind signing in for us?
Oh, yeah.
Please, sir, right behind that wall.
You know, so that's what that is.
Yeah, the chief pointed out that Transportation 551.403 is that one of the requirements is that they're daytime only for golf carts.
So there's no operating a golf cart at nighttime? Okay. And I'm agreeing, so like we need to decide if there's some additional safety stuff that if we want to pass this ordinance, then we need to get to agree upon. You know, not arguing it. But I think it's just crazy that we wouldn't allow the operation of these vehicles. In my mind, I got a question for everybody in this room. How many, and you probably know the answer to it, how many incidents have we had with a golf cart, from what I know in the last 15 years? I know of one.
I believe there's actually been a couple. And you're right, we haven't had a whole lot of incidents.
So like I don't think,
Can I say something? The reason you hadn't had a whole lot of incidents is because there hadn't been as many golf carts running around. Now you're gonna have put a lot more golf carts, which you're gonna start seeing. And even you said earlier that we operate at a minimal staff, right? So you're fixing to put my one officer working wrecks, watching people, making sure they got the license to drive it, they're doing this right, they're doing that right, instead of doing patrol. So you're putting a strain on the public safety side of it, and then also Public Works, because they're gonna have to make sure that there is no potholes or anything like that that's hazard, because if you do, in state law, it states that you have to have that signage up.
Well, I mean, I think we need to abide by the state law. But I just think there's multiple places across the state that I've traveled to, Galveston being one of them. I've traveled to beach towns in here. It's a business for people to rent side-by-sides and golf carts, not to drive on the beach, but they drive on the street.
Key West, that's all it was, golf
It's
course.
a master plan community, the streets are,
It is geared for that, it's a tourism, it's geared for that.
But they don't manufacture their streets different than we do.
No, but.
So it's still the same safety concern as it would be driving on this street.
But they're only allowed in certain areas of those cities.
And that's what I think we're trying to do by, we don't want golf carts driving up and down 84. We don't want side-by-sides driving up and down 84 because we think that creates a hazard. And so, all I'm saying is like we live in a small, rural Texas community. People have found something that they enjoy. It may be getting their kids out on the golf cart in the evening, or maybe the special need kid that gets out on it every day or fairly often. Why take that away from our citizens?
I don't think we are. I think one of the deals I think there's a difference between a golf cart and my deal, okay? Do you consider those golf carts? They're got away from the actual golf cart you have. It's been modified. We call it a golf cart, but it's no longer a golf cart. None of those have not been at the golf course at all. You know?
I disagree with you. They're out there playing.
Well,
I've seen them.
You know,
I've seen them.
But so my deal that they're getting away from the golf cart concept, and yes, it's fun. Pile them up and go down the street or not. Our streets are saturated with traffic cities. We avoid 84, we avoid 214. Guess what? Avenue B and Avenue D, there's traffic. Now, I'm okay with golf carts. I'm okay with UTVs as long as they're being used on the day-to-day stuff. I'm not okay with, well, I'll call it racer, that they're not street. They're not made for it to be in a street. They're made to be out in the mountains, out at the beach. You know, you see them over there. Those are made for that. They're not made to be. And I hope that if somebody buys one of those, they have a place to go and use it. Because I tell you, the city streets are not it. You know, that's the main deal. City streets are not made for that.
I think that if you look at the most responsible users, if you do see them driving on the city streets, and they're using it to probably go out in the country and drive around. And I don't think that if they're irresponsible, it's just like somebody driving a vehicle being irresponsible. That's a problem. I think we can all agree. I think somebody irresponsibly driving a Razor on the street is the same thing as driving a Ford pickup on the street irresponsible. And I just don't think we're here to dictate to people what they should do, what they can do, when they can do it, as long as they operate responsibly, as long as they're being safe, and as long as they're not putting other people in danger. You know, because through this conversation, one of the things that always comes up is, well, you know that Razor drives 50, 60, 80 miles an hour. So, yeah, but so does a car. You know, but we allow people to drive a car 50, 60, 80 miles an hour down the streets.
Because it's made to go down the street.
You know.
The vehicle's made to go down the street with the Razor's not. That is the main difference, yes.
But that's,
When we compare, they're not considered a vehicle along the lines of a passenger vehicle. They're not.
That's a
We
reason.
can agree that they're not, there's no comparison from a Razor to Yoda. There's two different animals.
That's the
That is
reason.
a passenger vehicle, that is a recreational vehicle. Passenger street, recreational.
Your recreational vehicles are not required to have tags, inspection stickers, insurance, and all the things that passenger vehicles are required to have.
but none of that actually makes it safer to operate. And I think that's what we're talking about, is safety. Just because it doesn't require, like, I just don't think that doesn't make a vehicle safer. I think one of the requirements of the state law is to have insurance.
Yes. You have to have insurance. It's on the road.
And so I'm not opposed to having insurance, liability insurance on that in case you are in an accident and damage somebody else's property or you injure somebody. To me, that's not an outlandish ask. But just simply prohibit it for the whole dang community is beyond me, because I bet some of us, I'm not included in this, have been on vacation in places that you went and rented a golf cart or rode a golf cart or a side-by-side in the town. Mom, I know you have something you'd like to say.
I got a golf cart. I went and got it registered. Got a little tag on it. Has brake lights, has a horn, headlights, everything needed, same as a car. Why can't I drive it at night?
Because state law refuses.
But no, I'm saying what y'all trying to vote for. Like,
So-
takes a chance.
So I was wrong. The Attorney Brian over here read me the state law that I was incorrect. The council cannot permit it to go at night. Now, in my opinion, which the state law don't care what my opinion is, if you have all the operational equipment, why would we not allow it to be driven at night? But we cannot pass a law lower than the state law.
Oh, that's what I heard this meeting was for, to try to do that.
Now, I want to
And then
make
I heard
it,
him saying it's not registered, it's registered, they got tags, they got everything.
I put this item on the agenda because I want it to be legal to operate golf carts and side-by-sides in the city limits on streets less 35 miles an hour or lower, as long as people are being responsible and abiding by the laws. That's what I want.
Absolutely.
And I don't want anybody to have any legal trouble for doing so. So the ordinance that's before you tonight is the one that I recommended. If you guys want to pass that ordinance, then we need to kind of have a discussion and say we want to. If we want to have some additions to that ordinance and can agree upon it, then we need to make a motion with those recommendations and move forward. Because I think we can go back and forth all night with opinions, because the majority of all this ain't nothing but opinions. And I've told you, mine is a bunch of opinions. But I'm thankful that I live in a rural Texas community, that, you know, I want my kids to be able to grow up somewhat like I did. And some of these things is kind of a part of that. But that also comes with responsibility, and I want people to be responsible, and I want them to be safe.
We all do, and, you know, when I was a kid, there was no golf carts. People didn't have golf carts. It was at their house. I don't remember, I never knew anybody that had an off-road vehicle. I mean, it just didn't exist. I mean, I'm sure they were made, but, I mean, the first off-road vehicles I can remember was three-wheelers. Well, there against the law now. Yeah, because they're such a rollover.
For sure.
Danger. One of my, here, and these are all hypothetical. You got a family here, mom and dad's got a driver's license, and you've got a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid. Mom and dad are probably going to be the ones driving that vehicle on the city streets if we're allow them to do that, more than likely. And what's going to happen one night when mom's in there cooking supper and trying to make gravy and goes, oh crap, I ain't got enough milk, and tells the 15-year-old, run down to United and grab a gallon of milk right quick. You know, here's $10, go get a gallon of milk. And they go jump on one of those things and something happens. I'm not concerned about them getting a ticket. They can pay the ticket if they get caught. What I'm worried about is that kid getting killed. And here's a question, I guess directed more toward Brian. What are we opening up the city to in liability if we say that we're going to allow these type vehicles on the city streets and somebody gets hurt very bad or gets killed or whatever, and they're going, well, the city said we could do it.
True, but I mean, that's the same with anything, right? I mean, that's a governmental function. I mean, you have all the immunities that you would for any other ordinance that relates to a governmental function.
Well, I'll admit, when I came in here, I was dead set against it. Knowing a little bit more about it, hearing some of the discussion, I would be willing to consider an ordinance as long as we can add some safety features. I really think we do that.
Okay.
And one of the things, the two big things for me, first one is brake lights. They have to have brake lights. And I know this is going to aggravate a lot of people, even if we do pass it, but I honestly don't think they need to be operated after dark.
Well, I think we clarified that golf carts can't be operated after dark.
True.
Per the state law. Are we correct on that, Brian? Okay.
So state law, they cannot be.
There's nothing that says, we cannot change that, no matter what we do.
Well, we could for the off-road vehicles.
Well, I think this is covering all of it.
That's off-road and golf carts.
So it's all, they cannot be driven after dark.
Correct.
Which part of that is crazy to me, because if you have the equipment, I understand the dangers, but like I said earlier, I also would understand the safety of all the people walk into the park on July 4th, and that evening, they're all around the park. If I wanted to leave my house and drive 2 blocks so I could have a good view and set my golf cart, I made everybody a lot safer that night, because I can see the whole perimeter around me as I drive, where I can't in my car. And so, you know, I wish there was exceptions to things like that, because I think that's more common sense. But, you know, I can't overturn the state law. All I can do is, you know, make it where it's legal for people to operate this.
And I really think this whole deal all centers around the 4th of July. I really do. I mean, I think that is the one time that they come out. I don't think this is a daily problem with golf carts or
Golf carts has become more of a prominent thing, though, here lately. There's a lot of people that you'll see that do drive golf carts.
I see them all the time now that I live in town.
Mom said he has a golf cart. He lives relatively close to the golf course, and he plays golf. I'm sure you probably keep your golf cart at your house, and you probably drive your golf cart to the golf course to play golf occasionally when you choose to. You know, to me,
I've got one living on the same street with me.
for sure. You know, I think this ought to be legal. Like I said, we live in a small rural Texas town. You know.
And I get that. I do.
Let's not try to dictate what everybody in this town does, because there's plenty of unsafe things that take place.
Absolutely.
Well, in the state law, we can't change it, but I feel, which my opinion don't matter, is the state law, but he's got brake lights, tail lights, headlights, blinkers. I feel like he should be able to drive whenever he wants. Now, there's nothing we can do about that. That's just the way I feel about it. I mean, if you got the headlights and you can see it now.
I mean, if others think that, I mean, we can bring an ordinance that has more of the equipment requirements and have that for you at your next meeting.
I think, from the discussion we had, I think we can make a motion that will add requiring brake lights to that ordinance and probably make a decision tonight. Is that okay?
If that's what y'all want to do, for sure.
Well, I think we ought to table this and let's do another executive session after the other meeting and talk about this also. I mean, that's what I would recommend. That gives everybody a chance to go over and think about, okay, is this the only thing we want to add, or will we do this, want to do this, want to do this? I mean, the fact that all of the off-road vehicles plus golf carts are not allowed after dark. Am I correct in that? Okay. That's a non-issue. We can't do that. Well, like I said, I think most of this probably stems from the 4th of July. that's gonna stop anybody from driving down there before dark and then driving home after dark. They can't do that.
Sure. Yeah,
So-
so we can't do it. That's part of the state law we can't change. Part of my reason, and I think I would prefer to pass the ordinance. If you want to have a discussion at a later date in regards to that ordinance and maybe have some amendments to it, I would be for it. But there is a lot of people that drive golf carts in this town that have brought up to me, I'm worried that I'm going to get a ticket. Can we operate this? Can we not? And I think we're all in the consensus we want them to operate it. It's as long as they're operating within the state law in the brake lights right now, I think we go ahead and pass it to make sure that those people don't get any tickets for using those vehicles. And then if we want to have an executive session,
If you want to, we can hold off on giving tickets to you, come up with an ordinance that suffice everybody. We can do that. I mean, I think we can hold off, hey, we're gonna give a grace period till the council comes up with an ordinance that everybody's happy with.
now,
We're gonna hold off on that.
I want to be clear, if we hold off on those tickets, I want to be clear that if there is somebody that's operating one of these vehicles recklessly, or speeding, or unlicensed, I think we ought to write a ticket.
I'm talking about
Because those are very much safety concerns.
the issues that are bringing up as far as the lights and operating and all that. But as far as if they're breaking the law, whether it's a vehicle, any other vehicle, we will cite it, okay? What I'm saying is, meanwhile, what the council decides on what they want to do, we can hold off on somebody operating on City Street. We have not given citations, and we know, and we pull, and we talk to many golf cart operators. We have not given citations, hey, you know, you're not old enough, we have made those contacts. Okay, so we've been lenient as far as citations, as far as those golf carts being used on city streets. We have been lenient.
And I really think we need to specify, and the reason being, they can only be operated on streets at 35 miles an hour, that's speed limits. There is about probably, I'm gonna just ballpark guess, about 6 or 8 blocks of Highway 84. It's 35 mile an hour speed limit.
Okay,
Well,
got something for that.
well,
The law says 35 and under. If that highway is in stretch, if it is 40 miles an hour anywhere, you cannot drive on that highway.
Okay.
That roadway.
but I think it'd be a smart idea in an ordinance to say, to exclude.
Well, I think in the ordinance it mentions something about any major highways you can only cross over. I think it's addressed.
It addresses that, correct.
Yeah, you can cross the highway, but you cannot drive down it.
Right.
You can't drive up and down 84, but you can go to a crossover street. You know, the very few times that I've operated a golf cart on City Street was because I probably had some maintenance work done on my golf cart at my warehouse on 21st Street. And I didn't want to go get a trailer, and I'm in the middle of the day, so I drove it over here to, I don't even know what street it is that goes across the highway,
Yeah.
next to Del Wool. Jumped across the highway, jumped across 214, and went to the golf course and put it back.
And that, you know, I don't have a problem with that. I don't. But in addition to 84 for that 6 or 8 blocks, whatever it is, you also have 214 starting down there by your business, goes most of the way through town at 30, 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That is addressed, no state highway
Yeah.
that is posted anywhere
Yeah.
above 35.
State or federal highways, because 84 is not the state, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be worded in the ordinance. Just, let's keep them off of there. They don't need to be there.
All right, so we'll take no action on this tonight. Let's put this in the executive session on the 20.
It's not an executive session, man. We can continue to have the discussion. But we'll get you.
We'll do it on the 24th.
Perfect.
We'll have an updated ordinance.
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing?
You're welcome to.
Just so everybody's clear, I've had a lot of questions about people drinking beer in a golf cart. They think they can't get a DWI. You can, because it is the same as a vehicle.
It's just like operating a boat.
Yes. So just make that clear, because I've been asked, well, I'm in a golf cart, I can drink a beer. No. You got open container laws, you got DWIs, just so that's clear across the board.
For sure. Nope, that'll work. Okay. Appreciate that. Item number 6 on the agenda is consider ordinance O-560-0826, approving Atmos energy rate settlement. Hey, Ramon, thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate you. Ramon?
This ordinance approves the settlement between the West Texas cities of Atmos Energy. There were 67 cities. And this is regarding a rate case that was filed with the PUC by Atmos requesting $13.1 million of additional revenues for cities. After negotiating, the settlement was brought down to $10.8 million. What that does, the effective date is October 1st, 2026. The impact to the average resident bill, we're looking at about $5.17. So this is an agreement, that says 67 West Texas cities with Atmos.
We'll make a motion to pass that ordinance.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is to consider the official ballot of the Texas Health Benefits Pool Board of Trustees Region 3 election. Ramon?
And the cities may vote on a representative for the TML Health Benefits Pool Board of Trustees. Atlantic and Tania, city manager of the town of Ransom Canyon, currently serving on the board. We recommend that we vote for the incumbent, Atlantic and Tania. She's pretty active and represents the area well.
I'll make a motion that we re-elect or resubmit Alina Quintanilla for that position.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The next item is to receive the financial statement for the month ending July the 31st, 2026.
I'll make a motion to receive the statement.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Administrative reports.
The school supplies, the summer splash event was held on July 27 at the Muleshoe Water Park. School supplies were given to school-age children, and they were also allowed to swim at free admission. We provided a hot dog and the fire department. Thank everybody that came out, everybody that helped, that was part of it. It was a great success. I believe there was 250 bags that were passed out. I know the fire department said they cooked about 320 hot dogs. So
That's awesome.
it was a pretty well-attended event. Maybe the first meeting in the following years.
And there was not a single hot dog or bottled water left over.
That's great.
It was a great turnout. The last movie in the park of the season will be Thursday, August the 20th. We will be showing the Bamba. We call it a day-night theme, so if you have a place to take your significant other, come out and join us, bring your popcorn, drink, and that is going to be on the 20th. TML Annual Conference will be in San Antonio, November the 11th and the 13th. Tamara's been in contact with us all about that. More to follow. And the Muleshoe Water Park will close for regular season hours on August the 16th. School starts on the 20th, so we'll be closing on Sunday the 16th. And that's all I have.
I think the school supplies and summer splash deal went great. Appreciate everybody that was involved. You know, Tamara had a lot to do with that. Crystal had a lot to do with that. Zana, I think you guys are all involved. Gary, all the staff that helped. It was just a great event that I think was very impactful. Does the council have any remarks? There is none. The City Council will now hold a closed executive meeting pursuant to the provision of the Open Meeting Law, Chapter 551, Government Code, Vernon, Texas Codes, annotated in accordance with the authority contained in Personnel, Section 551.074.